Hello again, geopolitics lovers. Welcome back to EDUSPLORER. It's another edition of news across the continent of Africa. To our new subscribers, thank you. To our long-time subscribers, you all are the real MVP. Today, I have many news to cover on Aljazeera while I bring you the latest news from Uganda, Nigeria, Congo, Ghana, Somali, and many more African countries. On today's episode, according to Aljazeera, Uganda deploys troops in South Sudan as civil war fears grow. Uganda has deployed special forces in South Sudan as fears grow that the country could descend into civil war. Kampala's military chief announced on Tuesday that troops had been sent to help secure Juba, the capital of Uganda's northern neighbor. Tension between President Salva Kiir and First Vice President Riek Machar are spiraling as power-sharing deal unravels and clashes have erupted. In a series of posts on X, Umuzi Kainerugaba wrote that as of 2 days ago, our special forces units entered Juba to secure it. With the UPDF, Uganda military only recognized one president of South Sudan, His Eminence Salva Kiir. Any move against him is a declaration of war against Uganda. All those who commit the crime will learn what it means, he added. The military chief did not elaborate on how long the troops would be stationed in Juba or if Uganda had been asked to head Kiir. Sporadic fighting has broken out in South Sudan in recent days as tension threatens to pull Kiir and Machar back into conflict. The pair signed a peace deal to bring a 5-year civil war to an end in 2018. Kiir's government detained 2 ministers and several senior military officials allied with Machar. Last week, dozens of soldiers and a general were killed in the northern town of Nasir amid clashes between the South Sudanese army and the White Army militia, which Kiir has linked to Machar. Kiir has insisted that he will not allow a return to war. However, analysts have warned that there is a threat of renewal of the conflict. Still on Al Jazeera, M23 rebels advance as DRC government offers $5 million reward to capture rebel leaders. The M23 armed group has pushed deeper into the Democratic Republic of Congo's mineral-rich region after capturing the key cities of Goma and Bukavu, the capitals of North and South Kivu provinces, respectively, in recent weeks. Security sources have told Al Jazeera that the Rwanda-backed rebels had entered Inyabiodo village about 100 kilometers, 62 miles north of Goma and located on the road leading to the strategic town of Walikale in North Kivu. Walikale is very important for the government as it is the only place where the government has the industrial mine from which they are getting millions of tax payments, said Al Jazeera's Alan Ouakani, reporting from Goma. In a major setback to government forces, one of the government's allied armed groups, known as the Group Kabido, announced it had joined fighters from M23. The Group Kabido has been active in eastern DRC for decades and fighting with the army for the last 3 years. Its leaders announced this weekend that it is officially joining the M23 to fight what they call the mismanagement of Kinshasa government. This is showing the disorganization within the DRC army, and the M23 is taking advantage of the situation on the ground, Wakani said, adding that the second group defected soon afterwards. Meanwhile, the United Nations Office for the Coordination of Humanitarian Affairs said that escalating attacks have struck hospitals and other civilian infrastructure, displacing hundreds of thousands of people. Between March 1st and 3rd, several hospitals were targeted by armed actors in an escalation of violence against medical centers and health personnel there, OCHA said. Security in Goma is threatened by a resurgence of criminal acts, including burglary of homes, thefts, and attacks, said on Sunday, adding that hospitals and schools had also been forced to close in other areas. OCHA said at least 4 civilians were killed in fighting between M23 and rival groups in the Masisi district between February 18 and 25, and more than 100,000 people were nearly displaced in Lubero to the north. Meanwhile, authorities in DRC have offered a $5 million reward to help arresting rebel leaders as government forces struggle to to contain their advance. In Nigeria, Nigeria's Anti-Graft Commission recovers nearly $500 million in a year, according to African News. Nigeria's Economic and Financial Crimes Commission says it recovered nearly $500 million in proceeds of crime last year. The recovery effort is part of the agency's anti-graft campaign launched by President Bola Tinubu's administration. It also seized over 931,000 metric tons of petroleum products, 975 properties, and company shares. In a report published on Monday, the Commission said that, in addition, it secured more than 4,000 criminal convictions. It's the highest since it was founded more than 2 decades ago. The agency says some of the recovered money has been reinvested in government projects. Nigeria has struggled for decades with endemic corruption, which many say contributes to widespread poverty. The country is ranked 140 out of 180 on Transparency International latest Corruption Perception Index. Once again on Aljazeera, Al-Shabaab gunmen lay siege to Somali hotel. The armed group claims to have killed more than 10 people in Beledweyne as officials met with elders. Al-Shabaab gunmen have stormed and laid siege to a hotel in central Somalia as government officials and tribal elders met to discuss actions against the outfit. The armed group claimed responsibility for Tuesday's attack on the Cairo hotel in the town of Beledweyne in a new statement. Several people are reported to have been killed. The gunmen detonated a car bomb before storming into the building, firing. An intense battle with Somali security forces was triggered, and the siege was ongoing in the early afternoon. Ali Suleiman, a shopkeeper who witnessed the attack, told the Reuters news agency that he had a huge blast followed by gunfire. Then another blast was heard. The witness said part of the hotel was reduced to rubble. Al-Shabaab said in a statement that it had killed more than 10 people in the attack. However, reports on the death toll varied. Quoting Dahir Amin Josu, a federal lawmaker from Beledweyne, Reuters reported that at least 4 people had been killed. The Associated Press news agency, quoting a resident in the area, reported that 6 people had been killed, including 2 well-known traditional leaders. On AP News, we don't have anywhere to go. In Ghana, rising seas and powerful waves sweep away homes. Pieces of the coastal Ghana community disappear into the sea when heavy waves batter the shore, sweeping away houses and land, threatening to unearth bodies buried in the cemeteries and devastating parts of Agavedze, where generations of families have built homes and lives. Rising seas and stronger tidal waves made worse by climate change have eroded miles of coastline, chewing in land at an alarming rate, say residents who have pleaded with government officials for sea barriers. The latest blows came in recent weeks, with waves destroying another 51 houses and displacing about 300 people in Agavedze and nearby communities, local officials say. Here are some of their stories. The waves usually came in the evening, washing against the walls of the home where Afelibanis Adzo and her family slept. Sometimes they would subside for a week, sometimes months or years before hitting them again. Recently, the walls collapsed and the 10-room home owned by her grandparents, where she was born and raised, was left in shambles, partial walls standing in sounds and much of it swept out to the sea. They've been sleeping in the fuel station nearby, knowing they can be kicked out at any time. "I feel so sad," said Adzo, adding that the situation affects her mental health, making it difficult to concentrate while at work because she feels like something terrible will happen to my parents. A 9-year-old sister sometimes doesn't want to go to school. The remains of over 100 people have been exhumed from the cemetery beside the house and reburied elsewhere. According to AP News, no disease is deadlier in Africa than malaria. Trump's U.S. aid cuts weaken the fight against it. Malaria season begins this month in a large part of Africa. No disease is deadlier on the continent, especially for children. But the Trump administration's decision to terminate 90% of USAID's foreign aid contracts has local health officials warning of catastrophe in some of the world's poorest communities. Dr. Jimmy Opigo, who runs Uganda's malaria control program, told the Associated Press that USAID stop work orders issued in late January left him and others focusing on disaster preparedness. The US is the top bilateral funder of anti-malaria efforts in Africa. Anti-malaria medicines and insecticide-treated bed nets to help control the mosquito-borne disease are like our groceries, Bigo said. It's got to be a continuous supply. The Washington-based Malaria No More says new modeling shows that just a year of disruption in the malaria control supply chain would lead to nearly 15 million additional cases and 107,000 additional deaths globally. It has urged the Trump administration to restart these life-saving programs before outbreak gets out of hand. Also on Reuters, Kenya HIV patients live in fear as US aid freezes trans drugs in a warehouse. The health clinic where Alice Okwiri collects her HIV medication in Kenya's capital, Nairobi, has been rationing supplies of antiretrovirals to 1 month refills since the US government froze foreign aid. On the outskirts of the city, meanwhile, millions of life-saving doses sit on the shelves of the warehouse, unused and unreachable. The clinic is a half-hour's drive from the warehouse, but for Okwiri, they may as well be an ocean apart. Without US funding, distribution from the warehouse, which stocks all US government-donated HIV medicine to Kenya, has ceased, leaving supplies of some drugs worryingly low, according to a former US aid official and a health official in Kenya. Still on Reuters, Nigeria steps up fight against Lassa fever outbreak after 98 deaths this year. Nigeria is battling a severe Lassa fever outbreak with 535 confirmed cases and 98 deaths reported across 14 states since the start of this year, an 18.3% case fatality rate. Health officials have confirmed that a patient with recent travel history to the United Kingdom died from the disease after returning to Nigeria, prompting contact tracing efforts in both countries. The Nigerian Center for Disease Control, NCDC, has issued a renewed advisory urging heightened awareness and preventative measures, especially among healthcare workers and those in or traveling to affected areas. The NCDC emphasizes that early presentation to ensure diagnosis and treatment of the disease can greatly increase the chances of patient survival. Precautions include avoiding contact with contaminated food, affected persons, and surfaces. Lassa fever is primarily transmitted to humans through contact with food or household items contaminated to rodent urine or excrement. The disease is particularly prevalent in Ondo, Bauchi, Edo, Taraba, and Ebonyi states. Symptoms include fever, headaches, and in severe cases, death. Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, and share. I am Faruk. I'll see you again in the next episode. Bye for now.